You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. The interview subject coming up for you is Jeremy Lenzo from the US outfit Mayday Parade. The reason for the conversation is to promote the outfit's October 2017 shows in Australia. So let's have a listen to what Jeremy has to say. Here we go. Whereabouts are you at the moment? Are you in the States touring?
No, we're currently in the UK, in Bristol.
Right. How's that all going for you?
It's been going great. I mean, the tour's been awesome. We've had a lot of fun shows. Us and With Confidence and I'll Get Out. With Confidence is from Australia, but I'll Get Out's from the US as well.
Yep.
And we've just been over here just doing, I think probably 8 shows so far, but it's been good. It's been a lot of fun.
Sweet, mate. Okay, so you're coming out to Australia fairly soon. Tell us about what's tell us about what fans can expect there, because I was speaking to, and I've forgotten his name, I'm sorry, but I was speaking to the guitarist and singer from This Wild Life about 6 months ago about this particular tour that you're doing together with them.
Or is it, we were talking to Kevin maybe?
Kevin, that's right, yeah, of course, Kevin, good bloke, yeah.
Yeah, they're good dudes. We've toured with them before and had a good, fun time with them, so we figured it would make sense to bring them over to Australia and redo the tour over there. But I think fans can just expect, if they're familiar with the A Lesson in Romantics record, obviously we're going to be doing that record in its entirety, which is a pretty nostalgic record for our fans. And then we have a bunch of other songs that, I want to leave sort of as surprises, but it should be a lot of fun, a lot of rock and roll.
Mate, it looks like both Melbourne shows are sold out. Are you aware that you've got a very big fan base there in Melbourne?
I did not know that, but it's pretty awesome to hear.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that those shows had already sold out.
Melbourne is probably best known as our cultural capital here in Australia. Not that means too much in a global sense, but when a lot of bands tour, mate, they tend to be very popular when they're playing in Melbourne. Now, I'm from almost the other side of the country, which is in Queensland, and we're more about surfing, football, and getting out in the cane fields and all the rest of it. And I noticed that the show here at Eaton's Hill in Brisbane is still available. So to anybody listening, and I should mention, mate, that I host a podcast and radio show, so I'll be airing this interview on both, if that's okay. If anybody's listening in Brisbane, definitely get some tickets there for the Eaton's Hill show, which is on the 15th of October. It's not too far away.
No, coming up pretty soon. Yeah, get your tickets, come on out, hang out with us. It'll be a good time.
Mate, it's very rare that I get an opportunity to chat to a bass player, and I've got to say, I did request to have a good chat to yourself over and above anybody else in the band. And look, I'm a bass player, and I play a couple of times a week in a local cover band here up and down the coast of Queensland and the like. So are you okay if I ask you a few questions about your bass playing?
Yeah, of course.
Mate, I noticed I was either a Twitter photo or an Instagram photo, or an Instagram post, I should say, that you are holding a Music Man bass. So is that your selected instrument, or do you play a variety of bass guitars?
Well, I have a variety of bass guitars that I use, but that would be my sole one. We've been sponsored by Ernie Ball for a few years now, and when I first got that Music Man Stingray, I wasn't sure what to think about it, and after playing it for a few months, I fell in love with it. That thing just has such a good tone to it and has a lot of punch.
How do you get by with active pickups, meaning, you've got the active pickups, which means that it needs a battery? Have you had a few failures on stage where you've had to sort of quickly get me the passive bass or get me another active bass that's got a battery that works?
Not really. Those batteries last a long time in active basses, and when they start to fade, it's not like it just goes from 100 to 0. You'll notice that the tone will start to change a little bit as the battery dies. So
yep.
Even if it was like going out in a show, you could still finish the show. Like, it takes a while for those batteries to die. You just sort of pop it out before it gets to 0. Like I said, it's a slow thing, so it can happen over a few months. You'll notice it slowly starts to kind of die. So,
mate, what about amplification? What's the bass amplification that you're using on stage?
So I used to use the Ampeg SCT Classic as the head, but now we switched it up because we do so many shows out of country. We wanted something that we could fly everywhere, and the SCT Classic weighs about 80 pounds, so you can't really fly that easily. So we switched it up to just a SandZamp brack mount.
It's funny, that's what I use. Yeah.
Powered,
The RB, I think it's RBX, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it's powered by a Crown SLX XLS 1502. I had to get our tour manager to tell me the exact name of it. Yeah, he's a tech guy too, so he knows everything about it. But it's just powered by a power amp.
Oh, is that right?
Runs the rack SandZamp.
All right, and mate, string-wise, are you using the Ernie Ball Super Slinky strings?
I am using the Ernie Ball Super Slinky strings, and I've been using those for probably as long as we've been a band. But, Ernie Ball makes great strings, and they're probably some of the cheaper ones you can get out of quality brands. So
yeah, what do you use, mate?
They've always been good to us about hooking up the strings as well.
And do you use the 45 to 100 gauge? I know I'm getting pretty technical now, but I just thought I'd do this because my show is all about guitars and bass playing and musicianship in general. So I thought I'd dive a bit deeper on this one here, as I say, mate, because I don't get too much of an opportunity to talk to a bass player.
Hold on 1 second.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there are the 55 to 110s, which are the heavier gauge strings, but I can double check. If you give me 1 second, I can actually go look.
You all right?
I'm going to run out the States just to make sure you have, the exact specs here.
You're right. No, I appreciate it, mate.
By the way, you have a pack of my strings I can check out real quick? Yeah. I wanted to be, or do you know the gauge of them that we have? Is it a 55 to 110? Grab a pack out for you now.
Thanks.
Okay, yep. Ernie Ball Power Slinky. Okay. 55 to 110, yep.
Yeah, that's the purple pack, yeah?
Yes, that's the purple pack.
Yeah, nice. I use the pink pack, the 45 to 100s. I do a bit of Larry Graham style thumb and slap and pop bass sort of stuff, so I like to have a thinner string.
Yeah, you probably need a little of the not so heavy strings to do the slap stuff. For just doing, just rock riffs that are just, pretty just, use a pick for most of the set anyway, so those heavy strings come in handy for that.
Yeah, gotcha, mate. So, mate, let's talk about Mayday Parade again. You've been in the band, I understand, since the band's inception, and I understand this to be the case, and correct me if I'm wrong, two bands merged to form Mayday Parade. What was the formative stages of the band like?
So the other bands, we used to practice in the same warehouse. The other two bands, that merged together, practiced in the same warehouse, and then over time we just realized that there were some members in each of the bands that were great at what they did. We're like, what if we just put these bands together? Just took the best of the best, put them together, made a band. And so we talked it over with the other band, and they liked that idea, and that's what we did. And it was, right away, I felt like we had a bigger fan base in the first 5 months of the new band than we did over, the past few years with our old bands. It just took off very quickly, which was amazing to us because it gave us sort of clarification that what we were doing actually was working and that it made sense to join bands. And then pretty soon after that, about 6-7 months after that, we got with Fearless Records. They had seen our picture on MySpace, believe it or not, and they liked the picture, so then they listened to the music and ended up liking the music, and then also not too long after that.
Yeah, wow. Okay, mate. And, mate, you talk about MySpace. So the band's debut, as I understand it, was released back in 2007. So the band's at least recorded history is at least 10 years old, and that album was A Lesson in Romantics. How would you say the band has evolved since the debut?
Well, back then, social media there wasn't so many different versions of social media. You really had just MySpace and Facebook were the two big ones, We tried to utilize those as best we could, and nowadays you have so many artists coming out and so many different platforms that people can share their music on with like YouTube and SoundCloud and all these other various things, that it's kind of hard for musicians. It's kind of a blessing and a curse, because it's easy to get your music out there, but it's hard because you're competing with all the other millions of bands that are now out there, utilizing these social media platforms. As far as how our band has changed, I feel like we try to just keep honest to ourselves and do what we want to do. I don't think we've ever made a record or wrote a song that was based on what someone else wanted. We never thought, what does the label want, for instance? We just write what our band enjoys.
Yep.
And we hope that other people will enjoy it as well. Obviously, we've grown up a lot over the past 10 years, so our taste in music has changed. Our styles of music has changed. We try to incorporate that into our music and hope that our fans who are growing with us, their taste might have changed in the same way our taste has, so that they might, like those things now. But, it's always just a hit or miss sort of thing. You just do your best and hope other people, enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fair comment, mate, and thanks for the response. And here's a good question for you, and I've been wanting to ask you this for some time. Is the band Weezer, particularly their first two records, is that an influence on your career and the way you guys have gone about crafting your music?
The band Weezer?
Yep.
I mean, we've definitely liked Weezer. Like, I think when we were in high school, when we were starting the band, I think the Blue album had come out, and maybe Pinkerton was out at that point.
Yeah, yeah, good albums.
Yeah, very good albums. We definitely love that band. And we try to model, as far as our music, I think we try to model it more, because at that time we had 6 members in the band. We're 5 members now. No one has switched, but we just had a member who left, And at that point in time, we had 2 sort of lead frontmen, so we try to model it off of bands that, we try to see what bands out there who had 2 frontmen, how they approach the situation, or how you could utilize that without cluttering up the music. So Weezer's definitely influential as far as the guitar aspect, though.
Yeah, sweet. No, thanks for giving the feedback on that one there. And here's another question for you, but it's really about your musicianship again. I meant to ask this earlier when I was talking about, or asking questions there about your bass playing. How do you find singing and playing bass at the same time? Because you're quite a good singer.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't know. I mean, I grew up playing guitar, and I feel like it's definitely harder to play guitar and sing than it is to play bass sing, because most of the time, for the parts that I would be singing, I'm just playing simple root notes, so there's not a lot of movement going on. I kind of that for the parts where someone else is singing. So I don't think it's too difficult. I mean, there are parts that are a little tricky when you first are trying to play them, but then once you get in the hang of it and you practice it a lot, it becomes sort of just like second nature, where you don't have to think about it. You just do it,
So I asked P.V. Wagner from the band Rage, who of course is the band's frontman and also bass player, the same question. But what would you say to any aspiring bass players who would like to sing as well when they first get started? So say we've got anybody that's listening to the podcast or the radio show that's 14, 15 or 16 and they're just starting to get into it and they're feeling a bit discouraged. What words of encouragement would you give to them to keep going in terms of playing and singing at the same time?
Even the best musicians have a tough time doing it. It's not something that is just easy by nature. You have to hone your craft. If you're a bass player or a guitarist or a drummer, you have to get good at that first, and then incorporate singing, after that. Once you have the part down, then slowly try to incorporate the singing, and it's, it might be difficult to stay on time and sing at, the respective part, but if with enough practice, it's going to be just like playing that part without singing. Like, your hands kind of do their own thing. You don't pay attention to it. Like, it'll just be second nature. You'll get there, but it takes time. So you just have to kind of stick it out and, keep practicing, I guess, is the biggest thing.
Keep practicing. That's
it'll happen.
Yeah, that's the only advice I've ever had for anybody, is just that if that's what you want to do and if you've got the talent to do it, just keep going. My view on it is this, that if you can sing separately to playing, So if you can do them independently, eventually you can do them together.
Right. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense as well. You just have to do each one separately first and be good at doing that, and then combine them, and it'll slowly become easier to do.
Cool, mate. Now, I'll just do a quick time check, mate. How much time have I got left?
I don't know. You go as long as you want. I'm not checking the time. So.
Okay, sweet, mate. Mate, what's the toughest thing about touring?
Probably being away from family. Like at this point, we're all a little older. We have either serious long-term relationships or we have wives and children. Like our singer has children, and being away from your family is probably the toughest part about it because you miss out on those life moments. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll use our singer again for example. But he's the only one currently with children. But say first time your child does something, like child walks or says his first words, you might be on tour. You miss out on these life moments that are once in a lifetime things because you're out playing music for your fans and you're trying to build your career. So it's a very tough thing to manage at the same time, family life and road life.
Yeah, and mate, travelling, I've just come back from a fairly lengthy stay in the Philippines. My wife's half Filipino, so a lot of her family are over there. How do you find the whole flight thing, waiting at airports to get onto aeroplanes? And does anybody experience anything in the band? Does anybody experience anything approaching a phobia around flying in airports?
We definitely get anxiety, I think, around flying, but it's not. A lot of it just has to do with the initial leaving your loved one, leaving your home, or just like where you're comfortable at. Get anxiety having to leave because it's coming up and you don't necessarily want to do it.
Yep.
But as far as actual flying, we're all pretty good flyers. None of us are scared of flying or have any worries about that. Actually, our guitarist Brooks and our singer Derek were on a flight once where the engine caught fire and they had an emergency land, and that didn't seem to faze them at all. It's kind of like whatever, and it got on a flight right after that and caught another plane to the show. But so we don't have any problems with flying. But the worst part about airports is literally just the waiting, like waiting to actually get on the plane and go through the lines and check everything. Like the largest pain in the ass you possibly have as far as flying. So that part sucks.
I've got to ask you this, what's the worst airport you've ever been to?
The worst airport? I don't know. Honestly, when you're talking about the Philippines, I think the Philippines have a pretty bad airport, but...
Mate, they're not good, let me tell you. They're not organised. I can say that firsthand. I've been over there plenty.
It's really the ones that are just... They have so many people flying in and out of, but not enough attendees checking tickets or, doing things, so the line is just backed up for like, I've had to wait in the airport line for like an hour and a half at some of these places. It's worse when you're going international and you're coming in from another country and you have to wait to clear all your goods and check your passport and visas and stuff. That thing can take forever in certain countries, so...
Yeah, no, agreed. Look, the Philippines is not great. We travel with. I've got two young daughters. One's 4.5 and 2.5, and that thing where they say that happens in America. I've been to America a couple of times, so I know they say this, but they say people with disabilities or with young children, please come to the front of the line and you'll get preference. That sort of thing. Well, they say that at the Philippines, but they don't enforce it. So consequently, it's just this mad cattle rush for the air bridge.
The same people that are in the normal line are just jumping over there.
Yeah, and nobody gives a shit. And you're like, my God, where's the humanity in all of this? Now, don't get me wrong. We can get the kids on eventually, but you end up having more bags and all the rest of it, so your bags end up being strewn up and down the aircraft. And I'm only mentioning this bit because I've just come back from the Philippines myself. And, and I remember saying to the attendee, the person taking the ticket, just, what the hell are you guys doing? Because... I know in America they do it, but in Australia, I've just come back from Sydney, actually. I'm from Brisbane and just come back from Sydney, and they said the same thing. And, of course, everybody stands aside and lets everybody who's got a disability or with young children get on first. And that's probably the most infuriating thing that I find about travel. And I mention that, as I say, because I've done it recently and I've got young kids, but it's always good to get someone's perspective who travels almost for a living as you do.
Yeah, those things definitely... make airports a very tedious and frustrating experience. But hopefully, with time, and as as countries grow, and the Philippines sort of going through a transitional thing right now. Anyways, I'm sure it'll get easier and more streamlined in the future. But it was just a state that sort of almost like I don't even know what I'm trying to say at the moment, but it'll get better, I think, with time.
It's organised chaos over in the Philippines. Yeah, it's. I love the life over there. You can go out at 12 o'clock at night and get a martini from almost any bar, and they'll serve it.
Yeah.
I do like that. In Australia and America, mate, everything here closes down at about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, except for on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it's not good. We've got lockout laws over here these days because of some of the violence that occurs after dark, and places like Sydney in particular, it's really killed a lot of tourism and a lot of nightlife.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll have to try to grab my drinks early then and save them for later.
Or bring your own is the other way to get around it. I think that's what I think a lot of people are doing. Mate, one of my last questions for you is, look, you've been a touring musician for a long time, as we've already clarified. What's the strangest thing that's ever happened to you on stage?
On stage? Actually, speaking of that, just yesterday, which is not too strange, but normally this doesn't ever happen. It's the first time it's happened to me, but we, every now and then you have crowd servers, they want to crowd serve, and then security catches them on the other side of the barricade, and then they walk them around so they can go back to watch the show, And just yesterday, literally, we were playing the show, and we saw this crowd server coming, and I was looking around, and there was no security. I said, where's the security at? And there's nobody at the front of the stage. The crowd server to the front, and then me and our guitarist both jump off the stage to catch this crowd surfer because there's no security. And that was the first time I've ever had to jump off the stage to catch a kid because the venue wasn't, doing its job correctly. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah,
fair enough, mate. Well, kudos to you both for actually having your fans' health and well-being in mind.
I'm sure they appreciated not, landing on their heads, so...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've seen a few people get, not seriously injured, but hurt whilst they've been doing that. So you guys, obviously, that's a seasoned musician in you coming out. That's exactly what it is. Yourself and the guitarist in the band.
Well, we definitely have our fans. Like we have it in, I don't know how many people know what goes on with venue stuff, but you have your contracts with the venue where they tell you how many hands they have working and who's hired to watch the stage. They're supposed to have 4 people in front of the stage. This stuff's all in the contract with the venue, but they literally didn't have anybody there, and it's sort of like a breach of sort of contract, I guess, with the venue. But as as a band member, these kids are coming to your show and they're coming to have a good time, and they're not coming to get hurt. That's the last thing anybody wants. So, and we all, as we get older, we try to watch out for those younger than us, and it's the only thing we could do is really just jump up and try to lend hands to help catch the kids. But I think that's what anybody would do if they were in that situation. I would hope, anyways.
No, fair point, but still kudos to you, mate. And look, my final question of the evening for me, at least. What time is it over there in the UK at the moment?
It's 3:26 p.m.
Okay, so the afternoon. It's almost midnight over here in Brisbane. So, mate,
really?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I've been up editing some shows. I interviewed I interviewed Phil Campbell from Motorhead, or formerly of Motorhead, just before you, mate. So it's been a good day for interviews, actually.
Really?
Yeah, good bloke. Yeah, he had some trouble with the reception, but wonderful guy to interview. And who isn't a Motorhead fan if you love rock and roll at the end of the day? And
yeah, for sure.
But I went through a period where I was heavily into Motorhead, and I was able to ask him about the guitarist that he played alongside at the time, Wurzel, who not many people know about, but Wurzel played on about 5 or 6 albums, Motorhead albums, and was more like their virtuoso guitarist back in the late 80s, early 90s. So I was able to ask him quite a few questions about that. So quite a thrill for me, and it's good chatting to you as well, mate. So there you go.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thanks for staying up to talk with me, even though it's late over there. I appreciate that.
No, it's all good. It's all good, mate. And look, as I said, my final question is, what's your relationship been like with Australian fans and listeners over the years?
We've always had a great time in Australia. Australia is sort of like the U.S. is sort of California in a way. It's the same sort of vibe with beachy and a lot of outdoor activities. And we love being outside and doing all those things as well. So it's always been a lot of fun. Just not even with our fans, but just the people in general. We've always had a good interaction with in Australia. A lot of times we'll just go out after the show and make friends with locals and just go to bars with the locals, and we'll have them, we'll share taxis with them and just go around with them. And
sweet.
I've always had a great time doing that. So
yeah, well, you're definitely a band of the people. There's no doubt about that. So, mate, I'll let you go. I want to congratulate you on your stellar bass playing and your vocals. I want to thank you very much for making the music that you've made, and I'll certainly be in the crowd when you guys tour Australia in October. I'll be at the Brisbane show.
Well, thank you very much. It was great talking with you as well.
No worries, brother. All right, all the best, and stay safe, and hopefully we can catch up when you come to Australia.
Sounds great.
All right, thanks, mate. No worries.
You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that interview subject was Jeremy Lenzo from the outfit Mayday Parade. Thanks for listening.